So I wanted to talk about this Reddit post here because it's another person talking about, their LGS, their LCS, how they're basically all scalpers and they just charge market price and they should only be charging MSRP. And it just, these types of posts, I see a lot of them about people saying, my LGS, LCS, they're scalpers are charging market price. They're only allowed to charge MSRP. Pretty much like 99% of the people that make these posts literally just got back into Pokemon probably within the last year because things got popular. And now, I guess MSRP means something. If you know, before a year ago, everything in Scarlet and Violet was way under MSRP. But people weren't complaining because obviously it was cheaper than MSRP. But when things are above MSRP, it becomes a topic of conversation. But I wanted to talk about this post because there's a lot of things that this person says here where it just shows that obviously they're new and they don't know what they're talking about. And I really feel like a lot of these people just post and talk about how their local car stores and LGS are all scalpers because they always get upvoted because a lot of people on the subreddit here, they're just people that complain a lot that just got back into Pokemon in a time where things are super popular, and it's obvious that they're complaining about things and they don't actually know about what they're talking about because you will see here some of the stuff they say doesn't really make any sense. So let's just read this post and see what they have to say. So, hot take, don't support your LGS. So, the whole thing with supporting LGSs or LCSs, this is what I will say. You know, supporting your LGS and LCS, it's up to you, right? I don't think it's a hot take to not support or to support. If they're selling at extremely high prices, like well above market, you could say, sure. I mean, there's no reason to, be indirectly forced to buy from them to support them. Like, no one's forcing you, right? But if they're charging like market price or less, I feel like, buying from them and supporting them is not a bad idea. But nobody is forcing you to buy from a store. Like, it is a good thing to support like a local small store and stuff. Like, it's good, but no one's forcing you. So I don't think it's really a hot take to say to not support your local game store. But it is sort of bringing negative energy. So let's just see what they have to say. So, not a single LGS in an hour radius has sold at MSRP for the last 2 years. Now, automatically, when you read this, that has to be a lie. Now, first of all, if you like I said, I mean, if you look at the last 9 months, even then, like some stuff was selling at around MSRP, right? Like market price. A lot of these products were MSRP for like earlier Scarlet and Violet stuff. But if you extend that to the last 2 years, which is basically the entirety of Scarlet and Violet, that to me, it has to be a lie, this statement, right? Because early Scarlet and Violet booster boxes were 90 to $100, and they were like that for like a whole year. So the this person saying that no store has sold at MSRP for the last 2 years, I truly don't believe. I can believe it maybe for the past 6 months to 9 months, maybe. But to say for the last 2 years, all the LGSs in an hour radius haven't sold anything at MSRP, I kind of have, it's kind of hard to believe that that's really true. Because honestly, a lot of these stores, they charged market price back then. Maybe plus a little bit of a percentage markup for having a store. But most stores usually do that. And especially if they were selling Pokemon early Scarlet and Violet, I would have a really hard time believing that they would be charging above MSRP because it would literally be like double market price. Unless this person means that they haven't sold at MSRP and they sold under MSRP, is if that's what they mean, but I really highly doubt it. But if they're saying that, I just don't believe that at all. I think there's no way that they have sold above MSRP in the beginning of Scarlet and Violet. There's no way, because if you were a store and you rely on like Pokemon sales and you're charging above MSRP when the market price was like 90, $100 for a booster box, there's no way, right? You're going to survive. So I find that to 100% be a red flag. And this person, in my opinion, is just lying about this. And then they say, no, it's not their distributor's fault. The last one I went to was offering $30 of trade-in value for Prismatic and 151 booster bundles, then marking it up for $100. They said no point in paying for more than $30 when we can get them cheaper from our distributors. Then when people complain on their reviews, they respond by blaming distributors. So, like I said, I feel like the first statement they made up, and I feel like they probably made this, second statement, like they all probably or like made this up as well. I really doubt that, a decent, right, LGS would lie and say that we can get them cheaper from our distributors, right? When obviously I think everybody knows like product is non-existent, right? I mean, we are getting these restocks and stuff, but you can't just readily order stuff like at any time, right? So I feel like this is kind of made up that they said this. And $30 for trade-in for Prismatic I find to be kind of unrealistic for a booster bundle, because booster bundles right now are going for what, like $70. That would be less than 50% in trade-in value. And especially now, a lot of stores are actually paying pretty good money for sealed product, especially for Prismatic and 151. I highly doubt a LGS is paying less than 50% trade-in for Prismatic or 151 booster bundles. I really highly doubt it. Because no one would sell that. Like there literally would be zero people like selling to that store. So I really doubt that's the case here. And honestly, I feel like this whole post is just made up. Like there's no way stores are paying $30 trade in for a prismatic booster bundle. Doesn't make any sense. So far to me, this whole post just seems to be like rage bait or something just for people to upvote, because you can see they got like 1,000 upvotes. Nothing they're saying here makes any sense. If a store can't operate without scalping and ruining the hobby, they shouldn't exist. Now let's just stop there. If a store can't operate without scalping and ruining the hobby, they shouldn't exist. So tell me how a store is ruining the hobby. How? Let's say this store, which most stores don't have any product, right? Because they can't order from distribution. And let's say they have to buy from people that sell to them on the open market, maybe paying 70 to 80% market price in cash, buying sealed product because they can't order from distributors, and they're doing that to be able to have something on their shelves for people to go into the store and buy. Is that ruining the hobby? Or let's say they don't buy from people, that sell to them, and they just, strictly buy from distributors. So you're telling me it's better, for them to strictly buy from distributors when right now there's nothing to buy, and have zero stuff on the shelves. So when people come into their store, no one buys anything because there's nothing to buy. That's better than them buying from the open market and just, selling at market price. Like that's worse. That makes no sense to me. So is it really ruining the hobby for them trying to have product on their shelves? And yeah, they're going to have to charge market price, which some people call the scalping price, and above MSRP, if they're having to buy on the open market to make a small margin. Is that really, making the hobby like bad? And I feel like this whole thing with like buying sealed product, it seemed to be very different than like buying cards, because before the whole craziness now where sealed product is really hard to find, stores have always bought like cards and stuff, and I don't think anyone ever complained or talked about how stores are scalpers for buying and reselling cards. But since it's sealed product, it seemed to be different, and that's why I just feel like, I don't know, it's very weird that people get all like I don't know, have this like ick about I guess buying or selling sealed product. These LGSs or LCSs doing so with I guess people selling to them, when I mean in the past, I mean they've also done buying and selling of cards and stuff and reselling them, but no one ever complained about that. But people are complaining about stores buying sealed product from the open market and saying that they're buying from scalpers and they're scalpers themselves. I just don't get it, right? But moving on. Every item sold above MSRP by them is something they could have made that could have made its way onto shelves of Best Buy for people to actually afford. Now, this person, this doesn't even make any sense. Every item sold above MSRP by them is something that could have made its way onto shelves by Best Buy for people to actually afford. That doesn't even make any sense. So you're saying that, okay, if they're going to charge above MSRP for a product they get from their distributor, that should go to Best Buy for people to actually afford. Now, first of all, how do you even know that the person that is going to Best Buy is going to actually buy it to open and not scalp it? How do you even know that? You don't, right? So it's like, I don't understand this statement that they made. Honestly, I don't know if this person is an adult or something, but this statement makes absolutely no sense at all, in my opinion. Occasionally, when I visit my family in more rural areas of the US, I find an LGS with more classic small business owner vibes of the 2000s that is genuinely nice and pricing normally but anything an hour within a major suburb city is just brick and mortar scalpers. They made sure to use scalpers. I also tried signing up for Destin Rivals pre-release event, and the store told me they only let their friends and longtime customers sign up. Meanwhile, then they post videos of them opening the packs themselves. Give strong, slimy scalper bro energy you see at shows. I can't speak. The same people that try to buy your cards at half off and say I need to maintain my margins. Like Nvidia doesn't even have margins that good. That's just greed. What kind of comparison is that? They're talking about Nvidia, a company, like to Pokemon. Like these are the people that are getting so many upvotes. Like these are the people that are making these posts and complaining about these scalpers and MSRP. Like it just really shows you the type of people that make these posts. I really highly doubt a lot of people are buying cards at 50% unless it's like very low value. If you go to trade card, or trade shows and stuff, you can even watch videos. A lot of people do like 80% trade, maybe 70% cash. That's very common percentages. This person is just making stuff up once again. I managed to get one Destin Rivals booster box from Pokemon Center. It's going to be the first sealed product I opened since 151 in March 2024. I refuse to pay anything above MSRP, and scalpers, greedy LGS, and bots have been way too active the last 18 months. So honestly, this person, whoever made this post, I don't believe a lot of stuff they're saying here. And in my opinion, it's pretty obvious they don't know what goes behind the scenes with distribution and how a lot of these stores are not getting much stuff and they're having to buy from the open market. And then to make any sort of money, they're charging market price. And even if they're selling at market price for stuff they get from distribution, like I don't think that's a problem, right? Because a lot of these stores also are not getting much. So I just don't understand a lot of these people that make these posts. I feel like a lot of them are sort of, I guess, ignorant to a lot of the stuff that actually is happening right now with supply and how things work. And I feel like a lot of people are complaining about things where there's nothing to complain about, right? I mean, LGSs and LCSs, they've always had this sort of, buying and selling thing. And like I said, I feel like people see the buying and selling of cards very differently than sealed product. Like people won't complain that, LCSs, LGSs have been, buying and selling cards for years. Like it's always been a thing. But now because sealed product is like hard to find, and if they're buying and selling, or they're buying sealed product and charging market price, then it's bad. Like they've been always doing that with cards. So I don't understand the difference, but that's just me. So let's just read some comments and we'll be done. Almost every store around me is like that except for one. Was able to pre-order Destin Rivals ETB through them for $50. There was 102 other packs for $450. Okay. My local lost me after canceling both of my surging and prismatic pre-orders, and we're selling them for scalper prices on Facebook and eBay. So I will say, any LGS, if you do somehow like find them or catch them canceling your orders and selling them somewhere else, like then obviously I'd say that's pretty bad, and then you'd probably want to avoid that place. Like I would agree with that. One of my LGS is surprisingly selling everything at MSRP and gets more restocks than some of the big box stores. I've only bought from there because there once because it's on the other side of town and I don't go there often, but it's pretty neat that they still sell at regular prices. Okay, so I think this is the last post. I was reading a little bit of these. I think this is the last one I want to read here. LGSs are in a possible position. They're not making excuses when they say their allocations are heavily cut. The LGS I frequent ordered 120 SPCs and received 8. How can they sell at MSRP when distributors are charging from wholesale and charging near MSRP? On top of that, distributors are forcing them to take dead inventory and bundle deals just to get some decent product. They're at the mercy of distributors. Now, this really only applies to I guess the second wave. Like I know in the first wave of products, like when the set's released, distributors can't charge, I guess, above wholesale. The issue is not the LGS. The issue is the entire distribution system. The only people winning right now are distributors. Pokemon just needs to cut off distribution model and do distributing themselves. This way, stores furthering their TCG by hosting events, fostering community involvement, and giving people a place to play can actually get product. If you only want a place to buy product, stick to your little discords with Walmart and Target notifications. But LGSs offer far more than product. If you were in the hobby anytime before the hype, you know that they're a place for the community to get together and play some games. They're a welcoming environment that you can frequent and forget about the outside world for a bit. Expecting them to buy product at MSRP in order to sell them at MSRP is insane. I'll continue to support mine and happily pay a smart markup for certain things in order to help them survive. Downvote me. I don't care. I'll still be the hobby to after you move on to the next hot thing from in a year from now. So yeah, I think this last statement is kind of, what I think about a lot of these people that make the posts. A lot of these people are just in Pokemon because it's hot. A lot of these people just got in and they're mad and complaining about prices because they obviously haven't been here for a while and don't understand that the time they're in right now is not normal, and this is sort of an anomaly. And a lot of these people that complain, they will be gone when prices are super cheap, when everything, yes, if it ever does happen, goes back to being like $100 a booster box. A lot of these people are probably going to be gone because they only want to be here when things are crazy and when things are hard to find. But then when things get easy and readily available, they'll leave. So I think that's all I want to say here. Supporting your LGS, and if you do it or not, it's up to you. It's your money, right? If you think they're fair and they sell at maybe market and they're good people, I don't see why it's a bad idea to buy from them, right? But if they're, canceling orders, selling them for higher prices later, probably not a place you want to support. But it's really up to you. I mean, to support your LGS, I'm not gonna say it's bad if you don't, or it's bad if you do. I mean, for me, honestly, could be seen to be bad or whatever. But I honestly just find where the cheapest prices are. That's what I usually do, and usually that's through online, and that's just sort of what I do. But if you have an LGS that has decent prices or whatever, um, there's it's good to support them, but you don't have to. It's not a thing you have to do. But I just think this person, a lot of the stuff they said, just in my opinion, was made up, and I think this person's lying about some things here. So that's all I want to say in this post. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.